How is it going, everyone? And I know this news is going to be absolutely depressing to some of you guys, especially those of you that loved Days Gone. I know there's an audience out there that is desperate for a follow-up to Days Gone, given how that game ended and given the quality of that game. While I didn't think Days Gone was at the level of the best PlayStation games, like a Ghost of Tsushima, a God of War 2018, even a Spider-Man, I thought Days Gone was a damn good game, and Ben's studio is an incredibly talented studio. Siphon Filter, Uncharted Golden Abyss, which somebody got to get that game available on PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4 even. I mean, it's a PlayStation Vita game, but they've done a lot of great work, and Days Gone was really their first foray into a true AAA console title, and I think for a first swing, they did a pretty good job with it, and it would have been great to see a sequel for that game. However, it has been 6 years since the release of Days Gone, and as many of you guys are aware, Ben's studio throughout the course of that entire 6 years were hard at work on a live service game. I know you guys love hearing those words, live service. However, that game was canceled, and 6 years of work from Ben's studio gone with the wind. It is gone. You could have had a Days Gone 2. If Days Gone 2 was greenlit in 2019 and they worked on that game, guess what? That quiet year that we had in 2024, instead of just having Astrobot, you could have had a Days Gone 2, realistically. It would have had a 5-year development cycle like a lot of other games, and it would have been ready in 2023, 2024, certainly by 2025. And what do you get in return? Nothing! Ben's studio has put out nothing in the last 6 years, and you would think after the cancellation of this live service game, 6 years down the drain, millions upon millions of dollars down the drain, what are they gonna work on next? Maybe they'll circle back and maybe it won't be Days Gone 2, but maybe it'll be a single-player narrative-driven experience that so many PlayStation players want. Well, guess what? Ben's studio and PlayStation doesn't look like they're going back to a single-player title because they do have a hiring list out, and requirements include demonstrated experience in senior creative leadership role on at least one ship AAA or high-profile game, proven ability to guide and unify multidisciplinary creative teams, deeply collaborative with the ability to disagree and commit and move projects forward decisively, and most importantly, experience with multiplayer game development and design. I said it before, but I think a lot of people were doing way too many victory laps when a lot of live service games were canceled, and Concord was a gigantic failure. Everybody sees the writing on the wall that Fair Game is probably going to be a failure. Marathon is going to probably, I don't want to say failure, it's Bungie. I think it'll initially have a level of interest that people will check it out, but I don't know the longevity of that. Last of Us Factions, which iced Naughty Dog for an entire generation. Imagine a studio that has been so embedded into the identity of PlayStation, just iced for an entire generation. What are they left to do? A bunch of remasters, and their game has been canceled. The only W that PlayStation has had has been Helldivers 2, and bear in mind, I'll go back to this over and over again, I truly believe that PlayStation did not see Helldivers 2 being a gigantic success. Go back to PlayStation Showcase of 2023 and realize that they opened that showcase with the Fair Game CG trailer, realize how much of a marketing push they put behind Concord as well, and those were their true first-party titles. Helldivers 2 was just thrown in there with a quick gameplay trailer when, in my opinion, and I said it back in 2023, that is the game that they should have really pushed a lot, and Helldivers 2 was always the game that I thought was going to be, or at least had the potential to be a big success because Arrowhead's identity was intact. With games like Concord, Fair Game, Ben's studio doing a live service game, Naughty Dog doing live service, to me it always screamed like there are these studios that PlayStation created to desperately chase that live service back. Created and then also being shifted to do these live service titles. It was PlayStation. To me, it came across them being desperate. With Helldivers 2, the identity of Arrowhead, to me, was never really affected. I played Helldivers 1, and when I saw Helldivers 2, I'm like, okay, this is the same insanity and chaos that Arrowhead is known for, and that's the difference I felt with Helldivers 2, and I really don't believe that Sony saw it coming, that it was going to be that big of a success. I personally did, a lot of other people did, but hey, if you want to give them that big W, more power to you. They've taken so many L's. They got one W in Helldivers 2. Game seems to have sold great on Xbox, with that release, but they've just taken L after L, and a lot of people thought, hey, this is them, they're gonna shift out of doing so many live service games and they're gonna go back to their single player titles. Guys, I think there's gonna be a little bit of that, but I think you're pushing the cart before the horse. They still need to take major L's. Farragame needs to be a disaster, Guerrilla Games needs to drop whatever, the Horizon live service project, and maybe that'll be good, maybe it won't, but they need to take more L's, and I don't know if they're ever gonna go back into a level where they're doing the major AAA narrative-driven single-player games just with all of their studios across the board. I've said it before, but the problem with those games from PlayStation's vantage point is that those games have a bit of a soft ceiling tied to them. What do I mean by that? Well, those games can sell however millions of copies that they can sell, and that's why they're porting those games to PC, so they can get some extra revenue off of them without hurting the integrity of the PlayStation brand that much that they're not giving other consoles those games, but they can generate revenue off the PC market. But ultimately, there is a ceiling. You can only sell so many copies of those games. On the other hand, those live service games, if you pop off, you can make passive revenue off of those games for eons and eons and eons, and that's why so many of those publishers are so desperate to get that live service bag. And on top of that, while those games in the past, the God of Wars, the Spider-Mans, which they're still doing, the Days Gones, the Bloodborns, and a lot of those narrative-driven single-player titles, they drew people into the PlayStation ecosystem. That need to draw people into the ecosystem doesn't exist as much anymore when Xbox is literally releasing their games on your platform. Xbox isn't offering much competition. You're left in a world where the incentive for you to release these big single-player exclusives to draw people into your ecosystem, it's not there anymore as much when people are just naturally drawn into your ecosystem because you're the console to go to. Nintendo kind of lives on an island on their own. Xbox is doing what Xbox does. I truly don't think this is the right route to go for PlayStation because I think you can get away with it for a while, having lackluster output for a while, but it will ultimately bite you in the ass at a certain point. And I do look at 2026, hopefully, fingers crossed, as a bit of a return to form for PlayStation, with Sorrows coming out, with Marvel's Wolverine hopefully coming out. Hopefully, it'll be at least 2 major first-party titles, but I still believe they're going to put a lot of resources tied to the live service experiment, if you want to call it that at this point. It's something that they're very much pursuing, and Herman Hull said it. What they want to avoid is a Concord situation where the game is literally done, it's released, it's sold, and then the game is shut down. They gotta refund everybody and you lose a lot of money. You wanna, from Herman Hull's standpoint and PlayStation's standpoint, if a game's gonna get canceled, you want to cancel it fairly early on in the process so you don't bleed a lot of money. You'll bleed some money, but not as much as Concord, and you're still gonna very much be doing the live service games. The hilarious thing about it with Bend Studio in particular is Bend Studio was iced for 6 years. They did a live service game or had one in development. They canceled that. Now it looks like they're shifting to another live service game or some sort of multiplayer project, which, let's be honest, that's not what people want out of Bend Studio. And above all else, because of that time of Bend Studio just being iced, hey, how do we monetize Bend Studio? I mean, we just had all these millions of dollars burned, you know, with this live service game that got canceled. Let's put them on another live service game, but in the interim, how can we make some money off of them? Let's remaster the game that people actually enjoyed in Days Gone and sell that again. Like, we can't get a sequel for Days Gone. They'll do another multiplayer-focused title. They'll do a live service game for 6 years, but in the interim, while they're working on those live service games, and at the end of it, hoping to get money out of you for years and years, because that's what those live service games do, let's sell them the Days Gone remaster as well. From an optics standpoint, when you look at it that way, it's just almost hilarious to me. We can't get, you know, a Days Gone sequel when that game from a narrative standpoint could really use a sequel and people seem to really enjoy it. But what do we get? We'll get a live service game in development for 6 years. We'll get another multiplayer-focused title in development now at Bend Studio by the looks of it, and all at the same time. Just so Bend Studio, we can have a little bit of a return on the investment. Let's remaster Days Gone. Let's sell it to them for 50 bucks and let's make some money off of them that way. But we won't give them a Days Gone 2. Like, that's comedy, in my opinion. But I think this is absolutely terrible, but it's to be expected. I think if you were expecting, oh, now all of these studios are gonna be working on something, single player oriented, I think you were fooling yourself. And I wouldn't be that surprised if Bluepoint is gonna be shifted to another live service project. I would just be very pessimistic about everything. I don't want to get into a situation where people are speculating, oh, is Bluepoint working on this and it's that, and then it's another canceled live service game, or it's a revealed live service game and people are super disappointed by it. I would be a little bit pessimistic just generally with PlayStation right now as far as what these studios are working on. Just expect them all to be doing live service projects. Expect you to get, a Naughty Dog single player game every 7 to 8 years. Expect Guerrilla to drop a single-player Horizon game or whatever they work on every 5 to 6 years, but they're all going to be working on live service projects, although it seems like Naughty Dog, they took the L with Last of Us Factions, and now they're moving on, which is a bummer because I think Last of Us Factions was something a lot of people were actually interested in, but nonetheless, as far as Ben's studio goes, looks like Days Gone 2 won't be happening, but another multiplayer title looks like that will be happening. So that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. As always, sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.